Hello and welcome to Tabletop Tycoons, the show that meets business owners, business leaders and entrepreneurs to find out what inspired them to start and run their businesses. It's now widely accepted that we will not return to business as usual. So how do you survive and thrive during the age of disruption? This week I'm here with Chrystina Schmidt, co-founder and creative director of Scandinum, London's leading Scandinavian designer home store. Chrystina, thank you so much for your time. I know you're hugely busy, but let me first ask, such a wonderful empire you have here. Let me first ask, what was the inspiration? What was the moment?
The moment of the foundation of Scandinum was a cooking pot. 1998, we went to Finland, to a small town called Turku. My parents live outside in the archipelago. We went to a small department store, and what we did at the time as a hobby was what we called treasure hunting, because we worked in the fashion industry, and I loved secondhand. I loved the 60s, as a style. Anyway, so we went to this small department store, and we found this fabulous cooking pot, very, very simple. I saw it from a distance and I rushed to it and I thought, gosh, this is like the pot for Gucci. This is so chic, unbelievable. What is this?
Let me just stop you and ask you about that moment. Because you saw the pot and you were working where?
I was working as a fashion photographer in London, freelance.
And were you happy?
Well, I was very happy doing the work I did, but it was very hard work because it was very inconsistent and it was a struggle.
Now, you see this pot and you think what?
I think this is so chic, let's do something with this. What can one do? Because previously my partner Magnus England, who's now our MD, and I also have talked about, how can we make a living in London because we don't want to go back to Stockholm. And when we saw this spot, we thought, gosh, this is so fabulous. We came from the fashion industry. This is like Gucci, in homewear.
So you thought that has a place in everyday style in Britain?
Yes, because I thought this is the epitome of modernism, the thinking of modernism brought to today's day standards. Now, when I saw this pot, I said to Magnus at the time, let's do Alvar Aalto, from the Paimio chair to Iittala tools, to this pot. Because it's a seamless demonstration of modernism.
Now, at that time, when was this? How long ago was it?
1998, summer 1998.
Summer 98. You see the pot, you come back to the UK, you think the UK needs this. It needs a splash of Scandinavian, the soul of Scandinavian modernism.
Yes, we thought so.
And there was nothing here. We just had drab stuff in.
Yeah, well, you didn't just have drab stuff. There were many good design stores, but there was no outlet. There was no advocation for the Scandinavian masters and that part of modern history, really.
When you're trying to sell something that people haven't seen before, obviously it's tough, right? It's selling smoke. Yes. So you come back in 98, 99, and you say, how did you start the business? That's what I'm really getting to.
Okay, well, how we started. We didn't have very much money and not very much savings because we lived in London. I was a freelancer. Magnus, my partner, worked in the fashion industry. He worked for Paul Schmidt and also for Patrick Cox at the time and did his MA in fashion construction at college, blah, blah, blah. So we thought, what do we do? I mean, and I'm a really practical, sort of down-to-earth person. I thought, let's get a shop. How do we do this? And so we had to find out where the shop would be, and we had to find out and figure out how London works. So we decided for central London, and there was a place in Wigmore Street which was empty. It's been empty for many, many years. Reason being is no one wanted a lease because the whole place was in such tatters.
Right.
So that's why we finally managed, and we didn't get a bank loan because the banks didn't understand what we wanted to do. So we found a third partner who has a history in Scandinavian design, because his family was part of Louis Poulsen, the Danish lighting manufacturer. He understood exactly what we wanted. He worked in the city. He said, okay, if you find a premise, I will give you my year's bonus to start your business, which he did. And a year later, we opened in Wigmore Street in September 99.
So it's funny, really, because was he a banker? The third partner?
Yeah.
Because the traditional banks turned you down, right?
Yes.
But then you got a banker's bonus and started it using that.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, but we were, it's all down to people, really. It's not, he could have been something else or been in a different trade. What he did is he understood our passion for what we wanted to do, because we wanted to be advocates for a whole part in history which we felt should have a legitimate place in a big city like London that was as versatile as London is.
Yeah. Talk to me about the journey from that, because it's a visionary position, isn't it? You see 5, 10, 15 years ahead and think this can be huge, or this can be very, when I say huge, I mean, you know, hearts and minds. People will really love this. But actually it's quite lonely, is it not, when you start? So just talk to me about that, the loneliness of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it is very, very lonely, because really you are alone with your pizzazz and with your passion, and no one will really be able to follow that, and is not, of course, able to follow it either. And you do need to have that pizzazz and that passion, because it brings you through the dark nights. It brings you through those days when the builders is just leaving and not turning up, while you're having to open the shop in 3 months, and while you have to sustain yourself during the day, having a job during the day, and then you go at night time and you rip out floors and you rip out old toilets because the builders just didn't turn up, you know. So yes, no, it is very, very lonely, and you do need to have, you need to make it a mission. I think it's really, really important. It doesn't come by itself. And you need to have someone at your side who supports you in those dark hours.
Let's talk about that, because you have started it with your partner.
Yes.
And one question I'm sure that you get asked all the time is, oh my God, I couldn't work, you know, people say, I couldn't work with my partner.
Yeah, you have to.
Right. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you know, but before we started Scandium, we never ever had a row, ever. We never quarreled. We were like the best. We've been together. We split recently, and we've been together for 23 years. We knew each other really, really well, and we got on and admired each other, I think, quite deeply. But when we started Scandium, it created such a heavy rift in the relationship, where suddenly we were pushed to our absolute maximum limits, both also strength-wise, you know, capacity-wise, in how many hours of sleep, or how few hours of sleep can you get by with, you know. Suddenly from 8 hours you were down to 4 hours or 3 hours very often, and all that eats at you, of course. You do have to have an enormous respect for each other, and you need to divide what you do. You need to decide from a very early stage, this is what I do, this part of the business is I do, and this is what you do.
And do you think it's really important to keep that demarcation?
And you need to keep that demarcation. It will not be 100% executed, because you are very close, things overlap, like everything overlaps. We are living in a spider's net, and life is a spider's net, and everything is integrated. So it will overlap, but you need to try and stay on track as much as you possibly can. I think that's really important.
And you're both obviously still in the business now.
Yes.
And that demarcation is still in place.
Yes.
All good?
Well, it is. It doesn't come for free, I have to say. You know, if people think that business is money, no. Business is your life. Business is what I do here. Business is that I need to understand that every action has a reaction, and that I am the creator of everything. Now, you know, like, it was very difficult for us in the beginning to get a lease at first, because we had no trading records in this country. We were foreigners, so we didn't get any lease. The lucky thing that we got a lease at all for a little shop in Wigmore Street. And the lucky thing was, it was in Wigmore Street, which was neutral. It's neutral territory. It's central London. It's not east, north, or west, because London is really, essentially, there are, you know, little villages still, you know, like lingering around, and you don't go from east to west if you want to travel, if you want to shop. So we needed to be in central London.
Is it true that when you got the lease in Wigmore Street, that the estate, the Warden Estate, came to you and said, you have such good footfall, we'd actually like to move you to another shop? Yeah,
the Warden Estate was not our landlord at the time, but lucky. They
headhunted you?
Lucky, I don't know, thank you God. We got a notification through the landlord that we had at the time, saying you are allowed to stay here another year, then we'll evacuate you because we are going to rip it all out.
Right.
And we thought, well, that's the end of the business, and we were a little bit shocked and didn't know what to do. And then, I don't know from what heaven they came, the Walden came and said, do you know what, we don't understand what you guys are doing. Are you having your friends coming in and out to just, you know, like, fake it that it's going well? I mean, the traffic is just unbelievable in this little shop. And we said, we were totally complex.
Had you had your friends coming in?
No, we didn't, because
promise?
we didn't have any friends.
Well, that's a good entrepreneurial
because we lost
trick.
all our friends on our way, because we were just working.
Yeah. But that's a good entrepreneurial trick, isn't it? You get people in. We've done that.
Yeah, no, you know.
We're busy. We're busy.
I can actually tell a tale about that. But someone else did it, but it was kind of funny. But anyway, so no, we didn't, and we were just no, this is just what we do. And they said, listen, guys, we got a place in Melbourne High Street. Would you like to have that? And they didn't know that we had got the notification of our previous landlord. So luckily, we then could move into Melbourne High Street.
One word answer. Do you, as an entrepreneur, make your own luck?
Well, you do always, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a person. Life is what you make out of it. And what the thoughts I choose and the energy I choose will manifest and become matter. And that's what my life is about. So spirit is the most important value that you're having in life, and business is life. And that's, I think, the new thing, whether it's new or not. But that's what we need to get back to, I think.
Is solitude important to leadership?
I think the acceptance of solitude is important. You are alone at the top. You are. You ultimately need to make a decision, and if that decision is wrong, someone will point fingers, and it's very easy to point fingers that it's your fault.
Is taking that responsibility alleviating? Or is it overly onerous?
It depends on how you decide to handle it, really. You know, you can make it to what you decide. It doesn't have its own life.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't own you?
It doesn't own you. You decide how far and how wide you want to go with it. And that will then manifest. That's how it is. And it will be different for different people, I'm sure. For me, it was very much solitude, because we really had head down to dive. Even though I was with a partner, it was still very full of solitude, because we really had to head down, dive down into a pile of work.
You don't really know about the size of the task you've taken on until you look back.
Yes.
So now looking back and joining the dots, is there a sense of fulfilment that money can't buy? If business isn't money?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not. For me, it's still work in progress, really. You know what, I have never, and this is maybe sound odd or weird to you, I've never sat back and thought, oh my gosh, I'm super, thank you. Never. I've always think, you know, like, gosh, we need to do this, that, and the other. There's always work to do. And you're sort of enwrapped in your everyday pursuits and musts that are sort of screaming into your face that need to be executed. And so this is my personality. Other people might do it different. I never allowed myself to just sit back and clap myself on my shoulder, say, oh, now I'm in Brompton Road, hallelujah. It just doesn't work for me like that. We'll
come to the macro in a sec as we wind up, but and how the macro environment, economic environment is affecting entrepreneurship. But one of the thematic kind of moments in this, it really is that you've aligned your passion with what you do. So there isn't a schizophrenia, if you like, between work and home. Mm-hmm. Now that has its price in some respects. Yeah. But do you think you can do it in any other way? Do you think you have to align those two things?
No, I don't think you have to do anything as have to in life. I don't think life is like that, because it's so versatile. And it works. I wish for myself very often that I would be much more playful, allow myself more time for myself and the playfulness of the in-betweens, and also to accept if things aren't quite the way I wish they would be.
How's that going?
It's going badly.
Why?
Because I'm such a, I don't know, sad monkey that I try to do the best I possibly can churn out at every corner. And it has a price. And I'm not saying this, you know, by being funny. It's actually, you know, like a really deep-rooted criticism. I wish that I would have the lightness of the hand and the lightness of the heart and the spirit to just dance with the flow rather than trying to steer everything. Control. I mean, it's far too much control from my end, which I'm actually sad about to discover. I discovered through this process what a control freak I am. And it has saddened me. And it's also given me a lot of grief.
So understanding that, by seeing it, are you alleviated from it? Just by the mere fact, well, not mere, but the fact that you've observed it and seen it, are you free of it in some respects? Because surely the observing is...
Yes, in some respect, and you're absolutely right. You know, once you are able to observe it, you have already freed yourself from it in a way, because there is then an opening for a change or for an alteration. A change, we think of black and white, but an alteration or just an adjustment. And just that little adjustment will make all the big difference, both for you and your surrounding.
So it's the navigation metaphor of shipping. 1 degree here can make a huge difference here.
And
Would that be
shipping,
right?
yeah, that
Is shipping a good metaphor for entrepreneurship?
It is really, it's brilliant.
This is brilliant coming from a Scandinavian.
No,
right?
but
Shipping's
also
everything.
I feel I'm a captain, you know, like,
Oh, do you?
yeah, I always say the captain
Well, you
is
should be first mate and relax a bit. No?
Exactly. No, I should be the belly dancer in the evening.
Wow, we'd film that. We'd film that.
Because I need that twinkle, you know, I desperately need a twinkle back, because we people are very quickly creating little boxes.
Yeah.
And our noses are so short. While we think we are the center of the universe, we aren't. We are center of our own universe, and we decide how little or how wide that is. And it just saddens me to see how I'm getting erupted in my own little box.
I hear you. Well, let's talk about something else, or some other folks who thought they were center of the universe. Turns out they're not. The Americans this week are arguing about the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
And this piece of political theatre has gone on and will continue to go on.
Yeah.
If we think we're disconnected from it, I think we're wrong. I think that everything is interconnected.
Yeah,
so
I
the
think so
wider economy is in a mess.
Yeah.
And a view that we've taken with Tabletop Tycoons is that it's actually entrepreneurship that will get us back to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this, that in 1900, about 90% of people in America were self-employed.
Yeah.
Now, that figure's almost totally reversed. And I see a swing back. Can you just talk around this area and your view
Yeah,
on it?
but there needs to be a swing back.
Why?
In the whole world, because the world is made of people, and we people create our lives, and I think we need to learn, because, you know, like this whole big corporation thing has devalued our ethics and morals as well, by leaving decision-making to politics and the big business. And life doesn't work like that. My well-being in my life is down to me and my own decisions, and that goes for every single human being in the world. And I think that's what we are living in a time of a renaissance, I think, of a reawakening. And it's the reawakening of the individual. It's like if 5 million people sign a petition that the Brazilian,
What is it in Finnish?
No. Sorry, they've taken her in Russia in capture. You know, the Greenpeace operation.
Activists.
Yeah, I mean, there's now a Brazilian behind bars, amongst other. If 5 million people on that side take action to free her, maybe she has a chance to get her out behind iron doors.
And do you think this is the Renaissance?
This is the Renaissance,
Why?
the awakening of the individual, and the individual to realize this is my life, and I've got my life in my hand. You don't have my life in my hand. The banks don't have my life in my hand. The banks will default. The US dollar has already defaulted. It's just something that they haven't officially announced. If they're sitting saying it'll never happen, it already has. It's just deceiving the general public, who still lives under the fata morgana of that it's driven by the government is our savior or big business is our savior. It's not.
What's Fata Morgana?
Fata morgana is like an illusion, you know, like a vision that we see.
In which language?
In my own language.
In Swedish or
Yeah,
Finnish?
Fata morgana is in Swedish. It's, you know, like the vision that you have in a desert of something beautiful, and once you reach it, it's not there.
So by people taking control and not putting their hands in the futures of banks or politicians or anybody else, this is where you think the Renaissance will.
Yeah.
And do you think small business has a huge part to play?
Absolutely.
Or a small part?
No, it's the major part. Because if you look at countries, and also, you know, like the downfall of countries, you said, you know, like in the US in the 1950s, I don't know how many percentage of the population was self-employed, and how little it is today, and how it's going down. You had the same in Sweden. I mean, in Sweden, for instance, I know that big business has always been supported massively, Volvo, Ericsson, etc. While if you were a small business owner in the 60s and 70s, we had mass immigration from Sweden of small business owners. They went to Germany. Emigration. To the US, France, and Germany they went. Like you had really part of the crucial intelligentsia. And small business is intelligentsia. It might not be revolutionary in the sense of big mathematics or science, but it is really, you know, like it's the fabric life is made of, and we need to go back to what the fabric that life is made of, and its quality. See in this country, for instance, you know how much money and how much debate there is about universities and high school education. It's appalling that there is no education for trade, for carpentry, for bricklayers, and that's where the standards are, and that's also where the recognition in material is. That's where the recognition, everything is connected. The recognition that the woodland needs to be cared for. Where does the woodland? Where does the wood come from? How much do I pay for it? What's the value? What's the value of life? What's the value of our earth? Goes back into entrepreneurship.
And would that reverse the cost of everything, the value of nothing paradox? Because everyone knows the cost of everything now. Football is on X a week.
But the footballers don't have a value. They have an emotional value, but they don't contribute. I mean, we don't fight wars in Europe, luckily, so we have football wars. I mean, it's ridiculous. They don't have a value because they don't contribute. It's deflated. It's a fata morgana. It's a vision that has no value. The value, the money needs to be put back on the ground, into the system where people actually learn a trade that has quality and value, and not just what they're learning, but that it's also sustainable.
I totally agree, right, and that's a problem because I should be challenging you on these points. But you're right, but I think there's hope insofar as one can't put the genie back in the bottle now,
no.
Because suddenly you've got a generation of people who realise they may not live as well as the future that have gone, but the generation that have gone different, and maybe that difference is depth versus growth.
Well, that difference might be that we need to live our lives with less excess than we've used in the past. And what's bad about that? Because there's too much excess anyway. Where do we put all that rubbish?
If we had the excess, if the excess went down, what would happen to happiness?
It would go up, because we will have a talk and relax and smile and have twinkle in our eye and not be such fastidious pushers.
Materialists.
Yes.
We're going to finish with a quick fire round. I've prepared a quick fire round for you, Chrystina. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. You have a Last Supper, which you have to cook.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And I'm not wishing you have a Last Supper.
It would be a herring and a good potato and a lovely creamy soup.
So soup to start,
yeah.
Herring and potato, pudding?
Yeah. And the pudding, I'd do a rhubarb tart. I love them.
There's nothing English in there, nothing British.
Rhubarb tart is
fair
British.
Fair enough, got it. Yeah. Fashion business, you started in it.
Yeah.
Is it function or is it affectation generally?
It's both. It's a love affair.
Design-
And you need it for the spirit.
Fashion.
Yeah. You need it for a spirit. I love fashion.
Yeah.
Fashion drives our spirit. How we conduct it is a different story. It needs to be revived also there.
Could it be better run?
It doesn't need to be so excessive. But where are your values and what do you value?
Design business, function or affectation?
Both.
Okay.
I don't like design, by the way. I only
Really?
like good craft. Because traditionally the craftsman was the designer.
Yeah.
If you have a good design and craft production, you throw it away because it doesn't work. So the craft is more important than the design.
Bank loan or crowdfund?
Well, today you can't do a bank loan because you never know where that is leading you, because they can have you in their grip very quickly.
Bank loan or crowdfund?
Crowdfund.
Bankers, visionaries, way off the pace, or a bit of both?
They are scared little monkeys because they don't know what they do, and that's a fact.
One key bit of advice for somebody who wants to start his or her own business.
Oh God, go where your heart is and never take a no. There is always a way out, and there's always a way to do it. You might not do it the way you imagined it to start with. You might need to alter it. Do it. Life is doing.
Brilliant. You are Prime Minister. I've just made you Prime Minister for the day.
Yeah.
And your job is to kickstart entrepreneurship in the UK.
Yeah.
So we become a global example.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I would go back to the workshops and see what workshops I can rescue in this country and fund them so that they can take on entrepreneurs. I would create masters of trades again.
Fantastic. Next one. Almost there. Finland or Sweden?
Both a bit.
Oh, you're very
Very
Scandinavian.
diplomatic, because my parents live
right
in Finland.
down the middle every time.
My parents live in Finland, and I lived all my life in Sweden almost.
Yeah.
I like both. They are very different in character, and that's been their trial and their difficulties as well through history.
Helsinki or London?
Oh, London! I love you.
Exactly. You've at least plumped for one. That's it. Good. Penultimate question. Big Ben or the Shard?
Oh, give me Big Ben any day.
Excellent, we're on track. Lastly, if you could, only one item, and it's only one, from this store, there's a fire, and I hope there isn't,
Yeah.
but there's a fire, and you can rescue one item.
Oh dear.
What is it?
That's really, really difficult.
Yes.
What do I do? And
It's
this
meant
has to
to
go
be.
quickly.
Yeah.
It has to be this teapot by Arne Jacobsen, because it's still used in Star Trek. And it was designed in 1958, and it took 10 years to construct, because it's so difficult to manufacture. And I think this is the epitome of good design. And now I'm back to design.
Chrystina Schmidt, thank you very much. A tabletop tycoon debut, and we've
you.
loved having you.
Thank you so much for your interest.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
That's it for Tabletop Tycoons. Join us next time from us both